Welcome to the deep dive, where we, take a whole stack of sources and try to give you that high-speed shortcut straight to the interesting stuff. Today, we are diving headfirst into, well, it's a whirlwind of competitive chaos, really. We're unpacking Picture Perfect. It's a story where these two completely opposed worlds just slam into each other. You've got the super hyper-organized structure of this collegiate softball ace, Skylar Paige. And then there's the raw, trash-talking, kind of glorious disarray of a professional hockey player, Robbie Corrigan.
Yeah, and our mission today, basically, is to figure out the mechanics of this really bizarre romance. Because it doesn't just start with hostility. It starts with this meticulously planned, business arrangement. A fake dating scheme, designed purely for strategic gain. So we need to understand how this incredibly competitive environment, fueled by sports rivalry and these intense family expectations, how it somehow forces these two into surprising vulnerability and a real emotional connection. It's kind of the deep dive into how maybe planning your love life down to the minute actually leads you to finding it. Strange.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that setup a bit more. So, Skylar, hyper-organized. Yeah. She owns a planner, and you just know she uses it for everything. Schedules free time in blue ink, that kind of person. And then you got Robbie, who she immediately labels Redbeard. Just chaotic, spontaneous pro athlete. His world seems to be ice, winning, maybe grabbing whatever food's easiest. The contrast is boom, right there. Abrasive, even.
Totally. And what's fascinating, I think, is that Skylar's structure, it's her defense mechanism, right? She's calculating travel times, prioritizing errands. Her whole life is this flawless algorithm she's trying to run.
Right.
Robbie, meanwhile, he's just living in this state of, amiable disarray, shares a condo, shares a truck with a teammate. Their basic approaches to just existing are totally incompatible, which, of course, is probably exactly why they end up drawn together.
Okay, section 1, the first pitch. Rivalry and the infamous bet. So our whole story kind of kicks off at Langone Park in Boston. Skylar gets dragged there, pretty reluctantly, by her older brother, Elton. Just a casual baseball game, supposedly. But this is where that pro-rivalry immediately sets the tone. What starts the actual fight?
Oh, it's pure ego, driven by, sports hierarchy. Elton, her brother, he takes issue with the pro hockey players there, the Bearcats, because they start talking shit about baseball. So it's not just a friendly pickup game anymore. It's like this proxy war between two different athletic cultures. You got the meticulousness of baseball versus the kind of brutal efficiency of hockey.
Right. And Skylar immediately zeroes in on her target, Robbie. Redbeard. Okay. She takes one look at him, doesn't say a word, just silently mouths, "Fook, you." But here's where Robbie's chaotic thing kind of works for him. Instead of getting offended, he's hooked.
Absolutely. He's drawn to her malice. The sources actually say he found her bloodthirsty energy and hostility, quote, fucking adorable. So right away, their attraction is rooted in this competitive aggression, not your typical romantic chemistry. He sees her anger basically as a challenge he's got to conquer.
So he immediately ups the stakes, proposes this wager. If he manages to get on base against her pitching, he gets a coffee and orange juice date. But how he wins is the first real insight into his character, isn't it? This huge hockey guy hates baseball. How does he actually get on base?
He chooses pain, immediate physical pain over the failure of striking out. He literally leans right into Skylar's fastball, takes the hit square on the shoulder just to win. He is willing to injure himself to basically force this date into happening. It's the first big sign that is in competitive drive. It runs way deeper than just sports. It applies to getting whatever he wants, no matter the cost to himself.
It's such an aggressive commitment, choosing injury just to force the interaction, which naturally leads to immediate physical violence. Elton decks Robbie.
Robbie punches back, of course.
And Skylar, our super disciplined, focused college athlete, she steps back and yells, "I'm telling Mom."
Yeah, that's the moment you realize, okay, she's not just a pitcher. She's still totally tangled up in her structured family unit. Her ultimate response to chaos isn't getting physical herself. It's reverting back to the strict authority she knows. It kind of makes you wonder, right? Is that a failure of her athlete confidence, or does it just reinforce how deep her need for controlled order runs?
Yeah.
And for them, the chaos pretty quickly shifts into, strategic planning.
Okay, section 2, the strategy session.
Yeah.
Fake dating and the Paige stakes. So the brawl dies down and Skylar gets focused. Her real goal here, make Madden, that's her brother Elton's catcher and best friend, insanely jealous. She was supposed to have her best friend Eve as her partner for this upcoming totally nuts family competition thing, but Eve cancels. And that cancellation basically opens the door for Skylar to recruit Robbie for a very specific, very strategic purpose.
Right, and this is where the negotiation starts. Skylar confronts Robbie at a coffee shop. calls him a presumptuous dickwad, lays out exactly how uncomfortable his public swagger and objectification made her feel. And this is a crucial pivot point, I think, because it forces Robbie to actually confront his own chaotic behavior.
Yeah, I was totally waiting for him to just shrug it off or maybe lean into the macho thing even more. But he doesn't. Robbie, maybe for the first time ever, he genuinely deflates. He gives this really sincere apology. He says, wow, I didn't think of it that way. What does that moment tell us about his potential for, like, growth?
It tells us the whole fake dating scheme actually has a shot. Because Skylar needs meticulousness. She needs self-awareness for this plan. And Robbie, right there, shows he's capable of both. Even if he hasn't, practiced them much before, his remorse shows some real emotional intelligence, willingness to actually listen and be redirected. It's the instant the fake relationship starts changing him, and I think he realizes she's treating this like a serious, structured project, and he can't just coast on charm.
And what a project it is. This whole thing is built around the legendary Paige stakes in Rhode Island. We have to talk about this family. They set up this completely absurd competitive tradition after her parents' wedding, which, get this, was held at a rock climbing facility.
The competitive trauma starts early. At the Paige stakes involve these ridiculous physical races, swimming, climbing, running, and the grand prize, the Paige Cup, which is famously made of popsicle sticks and a Pepsi can. That contrast is just so telling, isn't it? High stakes, super athletic competition, but the award is this deeply childish homemade thing. It perfectly sums up the kind of pressure Skylar's always living under.
The pressure is definitely real, but Skylar's response, double down on structure. To get Robbie ready for his role as fake boyfriend, she creates maybe the most amazing document we saw in the sources, his 5-day calendar. In her planner detailing the curriculum for their fake relationship lessons, it's incredible.
Oh yeah, that calendar. It's the ultimate expression of her need to control the messy process of intimacy, right? The lessons are all mapped out. Flirting, date night practice, making out. And then it escalates, maybe a bit shockingly, to blowjob workshops.
Seriously?
In the final entry for Friday. Main event? Maybe.
She is literally running a professional training camp for romance, treating genuine connection like it's just another pitching drill no one knows allowed, just mechanical execution. It's hilarious, but also kind of sad, It shows how hard it is for her to just let go and feel things. She has to compartmentalize everything, even sex and love, into these neat little bullet points.
Okay, section 3, testing the limits. Vulnerabilities and trust start to emerge.
So now that they're committed to the schedule, we start seeing their real vulnerabilities bubble up. The core issues that kind of led them to this whole fake relationship idea in the first place. For Skylar, despite being so competent on the field, she's carrying these deep hidden insecurities, and they stem from her family's academic expectations.
That constant comparison thing. Her parents are total die-hard Brown University alums, right?
Yeah.
And her getting rejected from Brown, it left her feeling like the odd one out just for attending Boston University, BU. So this family culture means her successes always get measured against this standard she couldn't meet. She feels deficient, even though, as Robbie rightly points out later, BU is not exactly clown college.
Right. It's great school. And what about Robbie, Mr. Bravado? Turns out he's hiding this surprising and really severe phobia of heights. And the phobia is deeply tied to his deceased grandfather. There's this unresolved emotional thing, a favorite yellow box kite, stuck high up in a tree on a cliff at Sands Point Preserve.
He literally feels like he can't move forward emotionally until he resolves that past trauma, which is symbolized by that kite he can't reach. He feels unfinished. So you have Skylar, whose external confidence masks this internal feeling of failure, and Robbie, whose external chaos masks his internal kind of frozen grief. They're both fundamentally broken by expectation in different ways.
Okay, and this is where the outside world tries to just shatter their fragile little bond. Skylar gets shown this website, like an online archive, detailing Robbie's past, photos, ugly mentions of man-whore behavior, whipped cream bikini parties, all that stuff. It basically confirms every single reservation she ever had about his chaotic nature.
And the doubt immediately triggers her self-sabotage mechanism. She reverts right back to plan A, accepts a non-date with Madden. She's looking for that safe, structured, familiar comfort of her old crush again.
But the sources throw in this really fascinating twist about Madden's motives. Turns out, he's not interested in Skylar romantically. Not at all. He's secretly in love with Eve, her best friend, and he only wants Skylar's help figuring out health insurance for Eve's newly adopted twins through his new Yankees contract. So the whole jealousy plot Skylar constructed, it was built on this foundation of miscommunication and weirdly altruism on Madden's part.
So when Robbie sees Skylar and Madden together, he leaves. But his reaction this time is really telling. He doesn't fight. He doesn't revert back to the old bravado. He actually articulates his new, hard-won self-respect. He says something like, "I can't pretend I'm not feeling judged and punished when I just came here to love you." He walks away because he won't accept being the punchline anymore or being judged for his past. And that's the moment, the fake dating thing has permanently shifted his value system. He respects himself more.
Okay, section 4. The climb and the climax, earning the U.S. That exit really forces both of them to level up their emotional commitment, doesn't it? Robbie realizes, okay, he needs to actually fight for her, get some advice from his teammates. And his first big grand gesture, it's pure defiance against that whole Paige family structure.
It's the ultimate validation for her, really. He shows up at Skylar's home opener baseball game wearing a Boston University t-shirt, a direct challenge to her family's whole Brown University allegiance. He doesn't just support her. He actively champions the part of her identity her family kind of trying to validate.
And for Skylar, that is just everything. She actually notes that the BU t-shirt instantly makes him her hero. He sees her, and he defends her choices against that crushing weight of her family's expectations.
And he proves that support, immediately, the very next day during the Paige Stakes swimming challenge. Skylar, pushing way too hard under all that pressure, gets a cramp, goes under, and Robbie, who's not even a swimmer, wouldn't normally participate, just barrels into the water to save her.
And when he drags her ashore, he just unleashes his protective chaos right on her parents, confronts them directly, tells them their competitive pressure is so intense that, quote, the need to continually prove herself is going to get her killed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that aggressive emotional support. It works. The family is genuinely shocked into self-reflection. They actually apologize to Skylar for making her feel inadequate all those years for not getting into Brown. So Robbie, the chaos agent, has effectively dismantled the rigid, kind of toxic structure that was running Skylar's whole life.
So with that family dynamic reset, Skylar makes her own grand gesture, one that requires her to totally ditch the structure and just embrace vulnerability. She drives all the way to Long Island, determined to get his grandfather's yellow box kite down from that cliff. She sees it, rightly I think, as this tangible expression of love and trust that she now needs to show him.
Yeah, she's trying to solve his unresolved trauma through her own brand of competitive action. It's very her. But Robbie, tipped off by his family, he races there and stops her just as she's getting near the dangerous cliff edge. He rushes to her, totally terrified by the height, but also terrified of losing her.
And it's right there, at the edge of that cliff, where both their deepest fears, his fear of heights, her fear of losing control, just collide. That's where they finally confess their love for each other. Robbie admits he was painfully in love. Skylar admits he's the first man she'd ever actually loved.
And they accept their new reality, this deeply interconnected, but still highly competitive partnership. Robbie immediately asks us to move in, right then and there.
Of course he does.
And Skylar, ever the planner, she agrees. But only after making a pro-con list first.
Naturally.
And setting clear boundaries. She gets a set of keys and demands a giant closet for her stuff. Structure meets chaos, and structure kind of wins the terms of engagement there.
The epilogue shows us the really beautiful legacy of all this structured chaos, though. 5 years later, they're married, exchanging vows right there on the pitcher's mound at Langone Park, where all the violence first kicked off. They didn't get rid of the competition. They just formalized it, created a new annual tradition, a hockey versus baseball throwdown, known as the Rocket and Redbeard game.
Yeah, ultimately the narrative really demonstrates that structure can organize chaos, but only if that structure is flexible enough. Flexible enough to handle genuine vulnerability and that kind of aggressive, unconditional emotional support. It wasn't the flirting lessons or the date night practice schedule that sealed the deal. It was the defiant BU t-shirt, the rescue from the lake, and the huge emotional weight tied to a simple yellow box kite and a popsicle stick trophy.
It's a fantastic study in what you could call competitive codependence. Maybe. This story really proves that even the most calculated, organized plans can get gloriously derailed by messy, authentic feelings.
It definitely forces us to kind of redefine what winning means in a relationship. For Skylar and Robbie, winning meant finding that partner who would both challenge their flaws and fight their parents for them.
Okay, so our final provocative thought for you to chew on today. Given that Skylar, the ultimate hyperplanner, eventually trusted Robbie enough to give him a key and actually merge their competitive lives, what is the most high-stakes competitive act of vulnerability, maybe emotional, maybe physical, that you've ever witnessed? or maybe even experienced in a relationship. Something to think about. That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.